In the spring of 2002, a train carriage caught fire at Tokyo Station. Due to faulty electrical wiring, panicked passengers abandoned the burning carriages, leaving their luggage behind. When the rescuers put out the fire and began collecting the luggage left behind by the passengers, the contents found in one of the bags shocked everyone. The body of a teenage girl was found in a bag. She was alive but severely mutilated. All her limbs had been amputated, and her body was wrapped in a plastic bag with small holes cut into it for breathing. The girl could not speak because her vocal cords had been severed. It was strange, but there were no other signs of violence on the body apart from the amputated limbs. From a medical point of view, the girl's life was not in danger. On the outside of the plastic bag wrapping the body, the number 72 was written with a marker. Next to the mutilated body in the bag, there was a notebook containing the girl's medical records, details like allergies, menstrual cycle, blood type, and so on. The law enforcement officers used every effort to get any information from the girl who could have committed such cruelty, but since she couldn't speak or write, this didn't yield any results. However, after a long rehabilitation, a few years later, the girl was able to share information about who she was and what had happened to her. The case was reopened. The girl's name was Kikumi Totoro. She disappeared in 1999 after leaving school. Her parents believed their daughter was dead because neither they nor the police could find any trace of her. Law enforcement discovered that on the day the girl disappeared, an unknown man approached her and said that her parents had asked him to pick Kikumi up from school. The girl trusted him and got into the stranger's car. Once they were alone, the stranger poured an unknown liquid onto her face, causing her to lose consciousness. The kidnapped girl regained consciousness in a brightly lit large room. In the center of the room was an operating table on which the girl was lying, missing one leg. Next to her stood a man dressed in a surgeon's outfit, holding an electric saw, preparing to amputate her other leg. It seemed that her other leg had been amputated earlier, and judging by the fresh bandages, one of her hands had also been amputated not too long ago. The man turned on the electric saw and began cutting off the other leg. Kikumi heard how the saw cut through the flesh. As a result, the process slowed down slightly due to the resistance of the bones. Kikumi couldn't bear the shock and lost consciousness again. When she came to, she was in a completely different room tied to a bed. Out of fear and panic, she tried to scream, but it was useless. She attempted to free herself only to realize that she couldn't feel one of her arms. Her arm was wrapped in bandages. She realized that just like the girl she had seen in the other room, her hand had also been amputated. There were other girls in the room as well, all tied to beds. Each of them was missing limbs. Some had 2 amputated, others 3. None of them made a sound. Some were silently crying, while others weakly struggled to free themselves. Later, food was brought for everyone. Kikumi's unbound hand was freed so she could eat by herself, but she threw the food onto the floor. Shortly after, the lights were turned off, a sign, it seemed, that the day had come to an end. The girl lay in soul-crushing silence, her breath catching from fear, but there was nothing she could do. During the first few nights, she was completely unable to sleep. Every day, she was injected with drugs, after which Kikumi lost all sense of time. Her only reference point for the passage of time was the food, which was brought to her 3 times a day. She had no idea who her captor was or why he was torturing her in such a sadistic way. From time to time, the girls were taken out of the room and returned with 1 limb less. When the girls had only 1 limb left, they were taken to the last operation. After that, they never returned. No one knew what happened to them after that. It was unclear how many days, weeks, or months passed until Kikumi's both arms and legs were amputated. The time came when she was transferred to another location referred to as the exhibition hall. It was a circular room with elevated platforms along the walls. On each platform lay girls with amputated limbs. In the center stood an operating table. Next to it, a set of surgical surgical instruments. It was at that moment that Kikumi saw her tormentor for the first time, an elderly man with a white beard. At first glance, he looked like an ordinary old man. His face was lined with wrinkles, and his eyes were filled with what appeared to be kindness and compassion. The old man approached Kikumi and removed the chains that bound her to the bed. She immediately tried with all the strength she had left to bite her tormentor, but it seemed he was prepared for this. Calmly and without hesitation, he restrained her and secured her back onto the bed. As punishment for her behavior, the old man attached a metal plate to Kikumi's back using a special harness. Then he brought over a device shaped like a flat panel or board. Using the mechanism attached to her chest, he fixed her securely onto the board, then lifted her into the air and hung her on the wall like an object. Once his work was done, the old man turned off the lights and quietly left the room. Every minute spent in that position was worse than hell for the girl. The unbearable torment eventually caused her to lose consciousness. When she opened her eyes again, she noticed something had changed. Every girl in the room now had makeup carefully applied to her face, and they were arranged according to age. All of them were Japanese, with dark hair and pale skin. Then a man entered the room carrying a bottle filled with an unknown liquid. He made all the girls drink from it. Afterwards, the elderly torturer examined the condition of each girl's body carefully. After this procedure, Kikumi realized that she was just one of the horrifying exhibits in this dreadful collection. From time to time, someone would come, select 3 girls, wrap them in plastic, put them in a bag, and take them somewhere. When it was Kikumi's turn, she too was wrapped in plastic, labeled with the number 72, and placed in a bag. Inside the bag, the terrified girl could hear the sounds of the street and passing cars. Then she heard the sound of train brakes and people screaming. Within a few hours, she was found by rescuers and the police. A few years after this ordeal, when the girl provided the police with some information, they managed to arrest her kidnapper. However, the arrested old man died under very mysterious circumstances, and the police were unable to obtain any further information from him. They also never discovered the terrible place where the kidnapped girls had been held captive.